Alright, guys, and here we are. So, well, we've been talking a lot about color themes, knight and bishop, mini bishops. We begin to talk about more about golden bishops, and we're seeing how the old school players would dig deep and use these color themes. Even the wildest of tactical melees, these colors, if we really think about the colors and understand them, we can see them. And it really brings kind of a cool light to some otherwise beautiful but hard to understand positions in games. The goal is to appreciate chess more and to be able to also to use the ideas of the greats in our own games with the colors as a help. And here we are. We're gonna start today by seeing one of the most famous games. Maybe the most famous game. If you guys close your eyes for a second and think of in your opinion, the most famous game in chess history, what comes up? Well, it's hard. It's not objective. It's subjective, but many would say Morphy versus Duke of Brunswick and Count Isolde. Apparently, he played them blindfolded at an opera. They call it the opera game because he played them blindfolded. Okay. A beautiful game. Very nice tactics. They show this to students, usually relatively new to chess, but it's beautiful at every level. World champions could appreciate it. And it's used to show tactics. And I want to admire the tactics today, but also look at the colors. Look what's really happening in terms of the colors as well. All right, and here we are. The e4. Morphy was white. e4. Controlling the light squares. e5. Controlling the dark squares. Knight f3. Developing a piece. Again, every move, new piece. Make the pieces happy. Find the worst piece and improve it. Attacking the pawn. Tickling the dark. d6. Normal move, protecting. Mini bishop on dark. If there's a downside, the downside would be that he's not developing. There's no development. Just pawns, no pieces. Let's see how Morphy takes advantage. d4, strikes open the center and busts him open. Alright, probably the best move would be knight to d7, developing. Maybe knight c6. Taking is okay. He plays an interesting move. Bishop g4. Okay. Basically saying, I'm going to pin your knight. You can't win the pawn because I'm pinning you. Well, this is violating a couple things. First of all, there's something called knights before bishops. Usually we want to play the knights out first. There's something else. Knights are more flexible. Bishops, you don't really know where they belong. There's another issue. You're not really preventing white from winning the pawn. White calls his bluff. He takes the pawn. The problem is that if you take back, the knight can't move because it's pinned. But what white would do is simply trade queens and then take the pawn. The pin is more of a gimmick. You don't want to play gimmicks. Be sturdy. Knight d7. Make a move. Make a dacha you feel proud to live in. This is gimmicks. Too much. Too early. White. Morphy takes the pawn. Now, the only way not to lose a pawn is to take the knight. Alright. Already we have imbalance. An exchange of a knight for a bishop. We've been enjoying these. Alright. Let's talk about the color money. Guys, everyone please pause and think about what happens for us. What happens? We lose a knight for a light bishop. What happens here? And color-wise, we're giving up 500, 500 in exchange for 1,000 light. So we're losing 500 dark, but we're gaining 500 light. Gaining 500 light, we're getting it because, right? And now we're going to have our golden bishop, a golden light bishop. We're losing dark, probably no big deal. And now our light bishop is strong. What is the most tender square on the chessboard in general? Well, the two most is f7 and f2 because they're tender because only the king protects. Well, guess what? It's now is double reason to be tender. We have a light bishop as well. Golden bishop. All right, bishop c4. Here we go. Tickle the pawn. Already going for the mate. The golden bishop. Appreciating. Knight f6, preventing the mate. Now, there's a big move there. It's a tactic. Not too hard to find. Take your time, guys. Should be able to find a double attack. Again, and I think what will help us. Again, this pawn is very not that safe. The knight stops the mate, but the pawn is not that safe. And remember, should help us is respecting our golden bishop. We have the golden light bishop. That means every light square is ours. Look for targets in black's position. f7, yes. What other light target? The answer is b7. And the answer is attack both here and here. Is queen b3. Already nearly winning on the spot. It's very, very strong. Attacking this pawn, wrecking the light squares. And this pawn would be huge. If he tries to defend this pawn or something, he would take here and the mate on light. Coincidence? Of course not. Of course not. So he cannot allow himself to get mated or get crushed like that. Black plays queen e7. A good try. A good try. It's the best move, I think. Can take. Well, he takes the pawn. Oh, if he takes the pawn, the problem is if he takes the pawn, he can trap the rook, but black has a bailout. He could check and trade, and the game goes on. Black's down a pawn, but the game goes on. All right. Morphy wanted more. Morphy, the opera game, he played in the grand opera style. Knight c3. He says, you know what? I just want to develop. I want more. I want to crush you. And the knight's tickling towards light, inching towards light here, defending the pawn. Look at this bishop is stuck. Pawn c6, helping defend. One could argue, one could say, yeah, it's a little bit of a tiny mini bishop. Fair enough. Bishop g5. Don't just focus on one bishop. Focus on one color. Dark and light. The dark bishop is a henchman. White's behind on dark, but watch the dark go. While we're attacking on light, we're also bringing in the dark. Again, we spoke about this before, about how if you may be behind on a color, but if they don't have development, you might as well crush them on not just light, but on dark as well, and that's what's going to happen here. White's hitting every which way. b5, and now the bishop expecting to go back, but no, white says, I want more. I have the golden light bishop. Don't tell me what to do on light. I am the light boss. Knight takes. Here we are. Cracking down on light. Okay. Pawn takes. Bishop takes. There was another way. You could also play bishop here, I suppose. Certainly that's possible. But he wants more. You're trapping the rook on light. Very strong. Yeah, I believe. Well, maybe not, actually. Maybe not. Because he can't take because he loses the queen. But then he checks. And somehow next move takes the bishop. Because there's no more pin. Sneaky. Alright. Bishop takes pawn. Here we go. Bishop takes pawn. Check. Heading on light. Every which way. Golden bishop. Sacrifice some material, but the bishop is still a golden bishop. And now he has a great move. Castle's queenside. Safeguarding the king, and the threat is to attack the knight. I mean, the main threat is like rook takes even. Already rook takes is a serious issue because you can't take back with the knight because you lose the queen. The king is illegal. Queen you just lose too much. You lose. All right, so rook d8 trying to protect the knight. Again, why is the knight so in danger? What color is it on? It's a light. Who has the goods? Who's got the goods? Light goods, golden bishop. White does. Here we are. Well, and white does an amazing move just to pile in pressure. You could double the rooks, probably pretty good, but he doesn't. He just sacrifices. This most famous type of this combination. Pin it and win it. Again, they show this to show how pins work and development works. But we can look more beyond and see the colors inspiration. Rook takes, using the energy of a light bishop. And now rook d1, again using this light energy. Still the same threats of rook takes. And he tries to unpin. He's trying to get out of the pin to use the knight. Fair enough. A lot of ways to win here. Certainly just bishop takes is good. You could trade queens and then... You could trade queens and then take and then... Take and be up a lot of pawns. Win. But there's much better. Well, you guys might have seen this game. If you have not, or it might have been a while since you saw it, you might not remember it. You might remember. But if you don't know the answer, if you haven't seen this, or you don't remember it offhand, try to find it. Try to find it. And the hint is the light energy. We've seen light energy so far, but now the dark sets in. Now the dark. Sometimes one color, you hit him pressure one color, the other color helps out. And then he's so busy helping to protect against the first color that he puts all his energy towards stopping the first color. And that the other color is what wins. It's interesting. Here the dark, and we never thought the dark would do the job. But it does. And let's see it. If you want to look. Okay. Bishop takes rook. Knight takes. And again, another good place to pause. Here, white to play and checkmate in 2 moves. The dark bishop lurking. And now it's not light anymore. Queen b8 hitting on dark. Knight takes, and then rook d8 mate. Colors alone will not tell us to play this way. It takes inspiration and tactical training and going through tactics and seeing these classics. But I think when we look at them and see it from the color perspective, that can give us more understanding of what's really happening, and we'll better be able to use it for our own games. And again, hitting on light, but the final blow is on dark. Let's see it one more time. Rook d1, take, queen b8, dipping in, sack, and then the rook on d8, the mate on dark. And here we are. That was one of the most famous games, if not the most famous game in chess history. All right, let's see one more for today. That was a nice one, but a short one. And we could, yeah, analysis. Okay, let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got. This was also Morphy. We're going to do one more Morphy and see how that played out. See, it's very similar to the opera game, except more positional. Let's see it. E4, E6, D4. Morphy's white against Alexander Buford Meek. Strong player, I think. Okay, surely a strong player. C5. They try to fight for dark, and white plays D5. Squeezes on the center. Black plays E5, no problem. Controlling the center. Well, white's got light. You could play knight F3, but it's not going to go that far. What would Morphy do? What would MD? What would Morphy do? Trying to fight. He has light. Is he going to be satisfied with just light? Absolutely not. Hit on dark too. How do you hit? The best way to break pawns is with pawns. Again, important. The best. You're not going to break this pawn with just pieces. You at least start with a pawn. F4. F4. Light. Now going after dark. And keep that in mind, the mentality. Going after dark. But don't be surprised if the final blow goes back to light. Let's see it play out. D6. Sturdy. Knight F3. By the way, if you take too early, you get too excited. Black does not take back. There's an annoying move, Queen H4 check, which is really annoying if you block. Suddenly there's Queen takes, and the rook goes. There's some issues. King has to move. You lose the rook, that's lost. King moves, you lose the pawn. It's not that good. So you get Knight F3 first. Nice and patient. Black could support his center like this, but it would just be way too weakening on the light squares. Way too weak. So he doesn't. Instead, he plays knight, bishop g4. We're seeing that pin a lot. But fair enough. He does take. He takes. Pawn takes pawn. And black, yeah, I think he's afraid to take. Could take. Imagine taking is okay. Imagine that's okay. Check. Hard to say. But okay, he takes first. Probably you could just take. He gives up the bishop for the knight. Color money. What happens? Of course, we're white. We're gaining light. We're losing dark. Losing dark. So again, bishop for knight. Give up 500, 500, and gain 1,000, which means that we're ahead on light, behind on dark. Hopefully the dark won't matter. Blue's like check on the dark. We could block. In the meantime, this bishop becomes elevated to status of golden bishop. Okay. He takes. Check. Already using showing what the goods. But it's not just a check. We can make a check and like, all right, check and see what happens. No, watch Morphy, believe, respect the bishop. He blocks. Knight c3. Fair enough. Probably black should have kicked the knight, kicked the bishop. If that would have happened, I feel like, oh, there might have been some more issues. He might have just castled and attacked here. Maybe. Oh no, I think he might have given back the bishop and then try to tickle him on these squares. And then a4, a5, knight in the dark. Give the light bishop, but now fighting on dark. Light, dark bishop, and also he has harmony because they have a dark bishop, and the queen and pawns all act as bishops. Light with dark. Okay. Anyways, that did not happen. He played knight f6, normal moves, bishop g5. We're seeing the bishop, same exact theme. It's literally the same exact. That's why I love to show these two games today. It's kind of a cool yin and yang. It's like the same game except more positional. This happened. No, this happened. This happened before the opera game. This happened in 1957. It's almost a prequel. But I wanted to show the other way around. That was more violent, and this is kind of in a way more, in some ways, more sophisticated. I kind of enjoy this. Let's see. Bishop g5, bishop e7. He's protecting. Okay. And try to break the pin. Try to break the pin. Black is ahead on dark, but white's hitting on dark, hitting on light. There's a knockout blow here. It's a knockout blow, and sometimes with a lot of pressure, you need to give a material and open up lines. I'm going to pause here. If you guys want to take a moment to pause and think of the move, to open up lines. You could play normally, but you could really make it strike. And often when you hit on light, you got him on light. You know how you're going to end him? When you start infusing dark, 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 dark. How do you infuse dark? And the answer is d6, d6. Absolute vicious. Bishop goes back. Knight d5 would be over. It's hopeless. So he has to take, and then white simply castles and he resigns. It's incredible. It's funny even. He resigns. There's no moves. There's no moves. Because there's too many threats. You're threatening to take the bishop. How do you if you move the bishop back? Well then you take the knight and then this knight hangs. Again, the knights are interlocked. The oozing light energy. The oozing energy is too much. Is too much on light. So the dark is like the henchman for the light. And if a6, I think you would just take, right? You would just take. There's no way he defends this. Here you would just take and then win the queen. And then if queen takes, you would simply take, and now you would hit him here, and then on dark, the queen acts as a dark bishop. But again, the queen, the energy of the light and the dark together. But d6, and it's symbolic too, because one thing black is okay on is on dark. He's ahead on, the math says he's ahead. If we could uproot him and expose him on dark, saying, listen, sir, dark is mine. Like, oh my God. If I'm getting crushed on dark, if I'm black, that's it. Behind on light, crushed on dark, it's all over. And that's what's happening. There's too much energy here. And Queen e7 again. Queen e7 is looks half okay. Well, let's take queen c7, but you could simply take, and then even queen takes f6. Or you could, yeah, or or queen e7, knight d5 is so beautiful. Knight d5, pin it. You can't take, and then you take. Can't take with a knight, can't take with a queen, take with a pawn. And then we use this pin. Knight takes f6. Using our light energy. Light and dark energies. But d6, subtle move. In a weird way, it's aggressively rebuilding dark. The math says we're behind on dark, so we use pawns on the weaker color. Again, pieces press the stronger color, pawns rebuild or aggressively rebuild the weaker color. D6 is saying, hey, come back dark, 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 dark. And it's fighting for dark. It's helping out. And it does the job. Castle. We're seeing castle queenside. We're seeing that a lot with Morphy. So that rook. What did the black do wrong? No center. Too many pawn moves in the center. Too many pawn moves. Bishop. Giving up the light bishop. Giving him the golden bishop was the start of problems. Yeah. So lesson here is don't give up the bishop and golden bishop. We're seeing in both games. The bishop pair. How the golden bishop really strikes hard. But don't just be focused on the golden bishop. Use other pieces in tandem. Easier said than done. We're not Morphy, but seeing these games, talking about colors, learning more about colors, we can strive to think like him and play like him. Okay, well, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for watching, and hope you had enjoyed. See you guys soon.